Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Tomb Kings and Kislev here in the Changer's Madhouse, one of our new maps on Total Tavern, and it is going to be Cetra facing off against an Ice Witch double Bone Giant versus double Little Grom, a matchup I've played quite a bit in Conquest mode, actually. It's very, very fun, and you almost always see double Little Groms, and you almost always see double Bone Giant, at least in my anecdotal experience. Now, the Bone Giants typically do outtrade the Little Groms 1-to-1, and it will be favored for the Tomb Kings in that Duel of Fates. However, with very good micro and certain, dynamics taking place on the map, the Little Groms can pull back using their superior 420 range against the 350 of the Bone Giants and trade reasonably well. But in order to do that, they do need to have some map control. They need to have space to keep the Bone Giants from marching down the Little Groms. But for the rest of my army here, it is going to be chaff-centric in the front line, and in the secondary, we have a couple Nehekar warriors, but nothing really fancy. Obviously, we have these big expensive monsters. We have the double Boner Giants, and they're good against Little Groms. They're good against any of the bigger things Kislev brings to the table, whether it be cavalry or, things in the woods. You wouldn't see things in this matchup, but they're good against all the heavy cav, which is very, very important. And Cetra is a powerhouse of a character. So as you know, in patch 5.1, a lot of big monsters got buffed and they got impact hits or impact damage, kind of like chariots a little bit. So when they charge in there, it's not like a limp noodle like it used to be. And Cetra really benefited from that because, he's a caster, he's a good combat character, and he can ride this very powerful mount. So you just ride around and you cast Usirian's Incantation of Vengeance, an insanely good spell against Kislev. It does really good DPS against like Griffin Legion, Winged Lancers, their elite infantry, even their Kossars, and on top of that, it slows. It is so incredibly good. And in this situation, Cetra is going to be protected by the double Bone Giant, right? Bone Giants are probably going to be absorbing the Little Grom shots, otherwise they themselves will die, which is going to allow Cetra to potentially rampage. And one Necrotech in the back. I figured, I had 700 gold left. I think he'd be more useful than two skeletons with his ability to heal the Bone Giants. So that is it for my army. Now for Subutai's forces, it is going to be some of the Horse Archers, a little bit of skirmish play here. Not bad. It gives you, on a map like this, which is kind of big and open, gives you a lot of agency to run around and grab objectives and poke and just harry your opponent. Double Little Grom's going to be using the Gust of True Flight, so we do see that. That gives him range and accuracy, which potentially could turn the tables of this Duel of Fates here, putting him up to 546 range. And the Ice Witch also is going to be using Hailstorm, which is just a good generic ability for punishing infantry blobs and things like that. So Little Groms do open up on the Boner Giants, and they do eat it in the face. The rest of the army is going to be very cheap for him too. Obviously, he invested in double Little Grom and all these Horse Archers, so his army is mainly going to be Kislevite warriors with a couple armored Kossars to mix in. Now, the fighting here is soon going to be taking place. Bone Giants moving up, and I do like this play from Subutai a lot, using his Horse Archers to harry my Bone Giants and just do a little bit of damage, because every little bit can matter in that Duel of Fates. I think is quite a nice play. Cetra does move out. My first call in here is going to be the Chosen of the Gods in the back. These things are really, really, really good against Kislev. Again, weak to Little Grom, but if you have the answer for Little Grom, the world is your oyster. So they're going to move up, and they're going to put a tremendous amount of hurt down on these Horse Archers and eventually move up and do more damage. So Boner Giants do take some damage, but the Restore going down is going to be a pretty considerable amount of healing. And my opponent responds with a very similar tactic, calling out a Patriarch to heal up the Little Grom here, while the other Little Grom is now going to be targeted. Massive damage coming in from the Boner Giant. Two giant erect shafts right in the face is going to be forcing that Little Grom back to the Shadow Realm. Meanwhile, Cetra is going to be advancing up, getting into Syrian's Incantation of Vengeance, and the Ushapti Great Bows are keeping the other Horse Archers honest. And you can see he's trying to focus down, got a little bit greedy there. Potentially could have flanked up and around and maybe started pressuring the Chosen of the Gods with some, melee dervishes. But overall, that trading does go very well, and Cetra is going to be cruising up and potentially delivering a bit of a bruising. So Little Groms are kiting backwards right now. This one's going to be retreating, and the Patriarch is going to be getting heals. And I was being really, really persistent here with the Boner Giants, knowing I needed to keep those Little Groms honest, and he was running out of space on the back of the map. I'm like, let's keep pushing here. I have the melee advantage, and Cetra is going to do these things dirty. We have Chosen of the Gods shooting, and here comes the big damage. So Cetra gets in there down the pipe. Brutal. Oh, man, he just bowling pinned those guys. And that is serious damage. You can see that impact damage on a multitude of monsters, especially this one for some reason, is really big. And here we are going to be seeing Ice Storm, Hailstorm coming down. Okay, so that is going to be dropping on the Skeleton Spears. It'll do a little bit of superficial damage, nothing too crazy, but Cetra now is going to be rampaging after the other unit here. Meanwhile, the Chosen of the Gods continue to pepper into the Armored Kossars. And you can see when you get those side charges with Cetra, man, it is just value city. He's already probably up to almost 1,000 value. Yep, that's the case. And he is doing quite well for himself. So Griffin Legion called in from Subutai, some hard hitters. Granted, most of my army is spears. And the Boner Giants do overextend a little bit. So this is the cat and mouse of the Bone Giant versus Little Grom duel. You have to keep chasing, and if you have to chase far enough that you're in the Kislev front lines, then the Little Groms can turn around and win that duel. But otherwise, if you have the space to push, you can definitely win that. But here we use our big Walmart Buna spell, although it's probably better than Buna to be honest. Do Syrian's Incantation to do big damage against the Armored Kossars. I know that the Kislevite Halbert Warriors will honestly downtrade into Nehekar Warriors and a multitude of my chaff units, so if I could just take out his good infantry here, we're going to win most of those trades. Another Hailstorm coming in, and calling for me is going to be Sneaky Snake Cavalry. So we do get Necropolis Knights with Halberds, which I don't think they're terrible. I've been kind of playing quite a bit of Tomb Kings, and they feel like a very, very solid faction. Here we do see the Ice Witch getting punted by Cetra the Imperishable, and the Necropolis Knights going to be hustling into the secondary. I figured that with Cetra plus the Sneaky Snake Knights, I could bully into his backfield and maybe finish off the Little Groms. Some of the Bone Giants, I have to admit, I got a little bit too much of a hard-on to get here and finish off these Little Groms. It's just trauma from the past. But they're moving up. I do pop a Restore, and the Boner Giants keep getting their aggro kind of switched by the Halberds on the ground. Granted, the Kislevite Warriors are starting to fold, and I saw a big opportunity. He brought a very cheap Barebones Footlord. So Cetra the Imperishable, many titles he goes by, is going to be trying to take out this character here. And if we can, that's going to be pretty massive. And the Snake Knights just moving into the secondary. Subutai going to be calling in some heavy cavalry here. Griffin Legion, which in a straight-up fight, Necropolis Knight Halberds will win. But with a Patriarch and supporting fire or even melee support from Little Groms, I'll 100% lose that. So I have to be careful here. But getting rid of the Kislevite Lord is going to be massive. So Ice Witch getting run over here. And we do get a Little Grom right in the face, which felt pretty bad. 2 Little Groms. As a matter of fact, my Bone Giant here does get crumbled by Halberds and a little bit of focus fire from all of his Horse Archers. And my other Bone Giant is just going to be pulling back. I kind of realized it was a mistake, and I'm like, all right, let's just see if we can stabilize here. So retreating from this mess, Little Groms are going to be switching back onto the Bone Giant, so they're going to be continuing to try and win that duel. In the backfield, some light pressure coming in, but Nehekar Horsemen with the Ushabti Great Bows able to deal with the Kossovite Dervishes pretty easily. In a head-up fight, Nehekar Horsemen actually do win that fight. So over there, I felt pretty comfortable with that. Here, we're trying to chase down the Ice Witch, who is shattered, so I know the leadership penalty will be coming in on Kislev soon, and, you know, they're not super hard affected by it, but overall, I felt, you know, I was happy that it would be, you know, making a little difference in the game. So here we do decide to turn around and fight. Necropolis Knight Halberd's going to be engaging Griffin Legion, but the charge bonus of the Griffin Legion, pretty disgusting. They get in there, and they start to do respectable damage with the support of the Patriarch, but Usirian's doing a lot of damage, and Big Daddy Cetra is going to be coming down the side here, so Necropolis Knights cost, I think, 150 or maybe 200 more than Griffin Legion, give or take. And with Cetra here, I'm like, if we can make this even a somewhat even trade after my misplay pushing into his backfield, I'm going to be pretty happy. In the backfield, though, Ushabti Great Bow still very much online, cleaning out these Kislevite Warriors, and now we're going to be surging into the secondary line with the Nehekar Horsemen, trying to pressure these Horse Archers a little bit. And here, the Sneaky Snake Knights actually do very well. They obliterate the Griffin Legion. We do also get this Patriarch pretty much on death's bed from Cetra, and the leadership penalty is now going to start affecting Kislev, as some of the horsemen do intercept Subutai's horsemen here, who decide to try and overwhelm me with sheer numbers. In the meantime, Little Grom's in the back still shooting. They haven't gotten a lot of value, though. This Little Grom, about 1,000, I guess. The other one, let's see. Oh, they've gotten a fair amount, actually. Memory served. I could have sworn they got less, but yeah, they've not quite paid for themselves, but certainly have been having to deal with the Bone Giants over the course of the game. So this Boner Giant is maneuvering, being chased by light horsemen, but once again, we do intercept the Kossovite Dervishes. Going to be trying to line up some shots on these Little Groms here. But Cetra taking out the Kislevite Lord and now getting this Patriarch off the battlefield. Even our Necropolis Knights managed to survive that, which is pretty cool. We're looking like we're in a pretty commanding position. 7.1 against 5.3. Both sides do have healing. I have the Realm of Souls, which is procced a couple times, and my opponent does have a Patriarch and has some of the Ice Witch. So the Ice Witch's sister is back for vengeance, and we're going to see what she can get done here. Certainly a good idea. If your caster is like, or your Lord is like a really cheap, expendable Lord like that, it's definitely worth resummoning to get the leadership up for your army. So, Nehekar Warriors going to be moving up to the objective here, hustling, and we're just kind of camping, feeling pretty comfortable with 649 points against 394. And now I felt like it was time for the final push. We call in the Melee Shopti. Melee Shopti are really good this patch. They had their bonus versus infantry doubled, and they trade pretty damn well into a lot of Kislev things. If you can deal with the Little Groms, really that's the big epicenter of issues, because most Kislev players are allergic to dynamic builds, and they won't bring things like Streltsy. Although Streltsy would be, I would say, a little bit weak against Ushabti Great Bow play, so I understand the liability with that for sure. But Streltsy would be very punishing against these units. One shot going into the Little Grom, shot through the heart, and you're too late. Did he give Love a bad name? We'll find out here. Bone Giant having accrued 1,300 value, so he's just about paid for himself, and should be able to finish off this Little Grom here with one more shot. Melee Shopti have advanced up, and Cetra is going to be searching into the secondary, and some sort of witchcraft is going down. I believe that was my Ushabti summon. So we're going to be dropping that right here, and just to make sure we finish it. I wanted to make sure we killed it. We invested a lot. I figured, hey, let's take down the one that we have beat up. The other one's full health, so I'm not going to stress as much. Subutai does call it Griffin Legion, some of the best cav in the game, extremely good. They do get nailed with another Usirians. And Cetra currently has got to be rocking close to 3k value. He's been an absolute menace this game. 2600. So yeah, he costs around that much with the kit I brought. He's definitely stripped down of a lot of his fancy items, but he does have Usirians, and he does also have Unyielding Will, and yeah, we did not bring any of his big fancy gear. Granted, it could have been good. So poking at that little Grom here is the Boner Giant. A misplay from my end. I probably should have been switching on to the Griffin Legion and some of those more heavy-hitting units. And now we got some heavy, not heavy units, but I would say by Tomb King standards, semi-elite infantry. The Nakar Warriors moving up to Objective 3 with the melee shop team. We do start to fold this line pretty badly. And now the Ice Witch is going to be vulnerable. A couple Horse Archers still alive. Not a lot of value on those bad boys, but they're still hanging in there. On the backside, we do defend our home objective with some Skeleton Spears. 4 warriors are on the way up, and the backside objective is for sure going to get taken here as the melee shop. You have routed off the armored Kossars, and from here it is basically GG. Cetra the Imperishable, he's certainly lived true to his name as he bullies this Ice Witch here. A couple Griffin Legion have emerged, but the melee shop have broken through the tattered remnants of Kislev, and we're going to be moving into these battle lines and forcing them back to the Shadow Realm while Objective 3 is ours. So GG, well played. And, you know, that's something I've seen some people discussing in our old strategy section of our Discord, is talking about this matchup and the Bone Giants versus the Little Groms. After the nerfs to Little Groms, where they got their range reduced, that does make a difference. The Bone Giants can close the distance quicker. I think that the Bone Giants are favored in that Duel of Fates. I've had the exact same outcome in pretty much every game I've played recently. Granted, I have lost with Tomb Kings to Kislev, but it's not against double Little Grom. It's been more kind of aggressive builds and more kind of frontal, pressure type builds. But yeah, the double Bone Giant I think is reasonably safe. I think you kind of have to do it. I like this build because the Bone Giants do effectively counter the cavalry as well as Little Groms, and Cetra is really dominant against infantry, and then you can call in melee Shopti. So I think this is a pretty safe archetype against Kislev, but something to be tested against, more varying Kislev builds. GG, well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one, and we will see you guys around very, very soon.